Fingerstyle Thursday. Hello and welcome to the first Fingerstyle Thursday of Volume 3, number 41. I'm dealing with a bit of a cold at the moment, so I'm even more bass territory for today. Oh baby. So you'll have to deal with that, I'm afraid. So today what we're mainly talking about is actually the C major scale, okay? That little child. And we're going to be talking about practicing your scales and basically what you should utilize your scales for. We're in standard tuning today, and I've put a capo on fret number 2. So actually it means that when I play this, it's actually a D major scale and not a C major scale. Still the same shape as a C, but because of the capo now it's a D major scale. That's why we love capos. Let's go have a talk. So if we check out the top of the sheet, I've written out the tab for a typical C major scale. Now, if you don't know how to play this, basically it's the open on the 3rd string. Then we use our middle finger for the 2nd fret. Then we move over to the 2nd string and we're going to play open 1, 3, which you want to use index and ring for that. So you sort of never move your hand. All comfortable. And then last, we've got string 1, which will be open 2, 3. And again, you should use middle ring for that. So if you watch my left hand, it never actually moves. All my fingers are doing all the work. And that means that we can do quicker tricks like that, okay? So first of all, just get warmed up with that scale. Make sure you're really comfortable with it. Now I've also written the C major scale in a way that maybe you don't practice it, and that's like this. Exactly the same notes, but completely different fingering. And so what is the point of that? Why would I want to learn the same thing, but just play differently? And it's mainly because it gives us a couple of more options, okay? So in this piece, we're sliding between 2 and 4, which is part of your major scale because it's technically, if we're pretending we're in C, it's a D to an E note, which usually, there's your D, and your open would be your E. So it's actually impossible to slide between those two notes because one is a 2 and one is an open. However, if I know that also my major scale, that is the next note of the 4 as well, I can slide to that one, and it just gives me basically more options on how to play the notes. So for that scale, give that a little play like that. So that will be on the 3rd string, it's most of the notes, open, then 2nd with your index, 4th with your ring, 5th with your pinky, then we move to the 2nd string, middle finger on 3rd, pinky on 5th, and then 1st, index on 2nd, and middle on 3rd. So it's more of a closed position, but exactly the same notes as those two kids, okay? And dependent on how you look at the scale, depends on how you might attack it when using to improvise. Yes, improvising. Scales are fantastic finger exercises, but you're meant to use them as melodies or correct notes that you can improvise with, okay? So that's one of the biggest things when we're practicing the scales. Good for exercises, but let's have a look at today's exercise, which is all based around this scale. All right, so our piece can be broken down into basically it's sort of a little 4-note riff, okay? So if we start on the 2nd fret, remember I've got a capo, so secret, 2nd fret. I'm going to use my middle finger for this guy, and I'm going to pluck fret 2, and I'm going to slide up to fret 4. So 2, 4, and then actually, I'm going to pull off. So we're going to go 2, 4, open, which is actually the first 3 notes of your C major scale. I'm just playing them D, E, C, rather than C, D, E. That's all, just different order. but suddenly it doesn't sound like a scale anymore, and that's because we mixed up the order, okay? So getting used to your scale is good, but then playing around the order of notes, that's how we come up with melodies and different runs, okay? So 2, 4, pull off, open. Okay, I said this was a 4-note riff, and I wasn't lying. So we have 2, slide, pull off, and then pluck your open G string, okay? Now your open G string, that's a G note on the 3rd fret 2nd string, which is exactly the same as your high G. So that is still part of your scale. So I'm utilizing that rather than trying to get my fingering to there, because it's open and it's easy to get to. Right, this is the pattern we have to get used to. Pluck, slide, pull off, and then pluck. We're then going to move to the 2nd string and play the next notes on the scale there, which is B, 1st fret, slide 3, pull off, and then open. And again, we're going to play these all as 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd use your middle finger for that first riff that we did, 2, 4, pull off. Then index to the skid. And the main reason is because if we look at that natural shape, your index is easier to get to with the 1st fret and your middle sort of lines up with the 2nd. So then on the 2nd string, there we go. And as usual, I'm using my index to pluck up the 2nd string. And finally, we're going to come to the 1st string and we're going to still play through the scale. So I'm going to play 2, 3, open, pull off. So 2, slide 3, pull off, and then 4th string. So on the 3rd string, we have 2, 4, pull off, and then open, 1, 3, pull off, open, 2, 3, pull off, open, and then we're going to go back to the 2nd string for 1, 3, pull off, open. Now the reason why the C major scale is such a cool one is because it involves, we can basically utilize all of your open strings. And again, without the capo, I've done this with the capo, so I'm not talking the key of D to not confuse you. Usually we have a G, C, E, and A strings, and all of those notes are part of your C major scale. So actually it means that you can play any bits of your scale in any order and use the open notes because they're all basically parts of your scale also. So you never have to play that scale in order, it's just how we're taught to practice it, okay? But getting used to not playing it in order and playing all the notes completely crazy is how we then come up with different runs, and you get a bit more comfortable improvising like that, okay? So scale is good, but practice it in different ways, sort of like this, where we're not going 1st note, we're going 2nd note, 3rd note, and then 1st note, and then 5th note. Right, so we're going to do that basically twice in a row. That was our 1st bar, and because we're in 16th notes, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. And that's your 1st bar. We're going to do that twice in a row. So your 2nd bar is exactly the same. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. And as usual on the right hand, I'm using thumb, thumb, index, middle for that, okay? You might want to use your thumb for all of them, but you can, that's absolutely fine, but just your thumb is very comfortable, basically. I always utilize it for coming back and hitting that open G string. So you don't have to move that right hand, okay? Makes it quicker to start with. Well, no, makes it quicker in the end, sorry, but it's a bit more confusing to start with. But if you persevere with it, you'll be just fine. So for that 1st half of the riff, we sort of borrowed mainly from this shape because of that. That's definitely from this shape. But actually the 1st part is more from that scale, okay? So they're still the same scale, just different ways of playing them. Now our next part borrows really from the 2nd one. So we're actually going to start off, I'll just put your middle finger on the 5th fret, 3rd string, and we're going to play a nice typical arpeggio. So on the right hand, we're going to go 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1. And again, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1. Thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, middle, thumb, middle. 1 E and A, 2 E and A. So it's all the same pace as everything else. So that leaves us with 3 E and A, 4 E and A left on the bar. So I'm going to do basically 2 of my little rundowns, which take up 4 notes. So I'm going to use my index finger to play the 2nd fret. And again, just running through my notes on the scale. So I'm going to go 2, 3, pull off, open. 2, slide 3, pull off, open, and then open G. Then I use my middle for the next one, but if you want to play the index, that's fine. And that's on the 2nd string, 3, 5, 3, 5, open, and then again, open 4th string. And that again is coming really from this shape. It's those 2 notes and those 2 notes. Again, same notes, just different ways of thinking about it. Okay, so we have a little arpeggio. Slide. That's 1 bar, and we're going to do that twice. So let's try that twice in a row. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 E and A, 2. Cool. Then we're going to go back to our original riff for a bar. And then on the last bar, we're actually going to do the 1st slide, 2nd, but we're just going to pause on that basically the B note there. And there we go. Excellent. Right, hopefully you found this somewhat useful and been able to put up with my cold. All the sheets, MP3s, everything can be found on Patreon. If you like this lesson, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Right, gotta go. Love you, bye.